All right, good afternoon, everybody. Trady John here from Simpler Trading. I hope everyone's doing well. Again, this is an impromptu video. Matter of fact, I'm getting ready for our Taco Tuesday session. That should be starting once my wife arrives here. It was a great day. It was another great day. Actually, if I just stayed patient, which I did, we had a lot of winners. I had a lot of winners coming into the morning. I also had some CELH that was down for a long-term equity trade. They do a forward split tomorrow, 3 to 1. But it ended up, we added down at the bottom, made a little bit of money off that. Overall, just a great day. But you have to be asking yourself, like, what's coming next? And the reason and what prompted me to do this was the fact that my good friend, my neighbor, who is learning how to trade, it's funny because he's only been trading, I swear, for like a month, maybe just a tad bit longer, and knew nothing about trading. And he says to me, like, hey, this has got to be a short up here. This is extended, or he didn't use the word extended, but he said, he just felt like it was due, which I thought was really interesting, right? He said, don't want to be a top caller, but I can't help but want to buy a bunch of SPY and QQ puts. That's what he said. And I thought that was interesting. I said, well, one, I feel like you haven't been in the market long enough to say something like that. So it's amazing to see how fast people can progress and think, hey, this is a time to call a short. And I think that's really important. So what I want to do really quick with you is go over the SPY and look at the ES futures and just get a good, the same thing that I do over the weekend. Let's see what's happened so far. Let's look at a couple charts. We'll look at the SPY, we'll look at the Qs, ES, Nasdaq, look at the dollar, look at the fear and greed in the TNX. So like just a small section of the broad market analysis, if you will. So let's go ahead and get into that. And again, I'm not looking at any sort of chat. There's no questions that I can answer, anything like that. If you're interested in asking me something, reach out on X. You guys can follow me there. That is the Twitter, right? Twitter. And I'll show you that here in a second so you guys know what handle that you can find me on if you're not on X. And we'll do that right off the bat so that you understand. And let's go right here. Let's pull this up. All right, so I want to make sure you guys know who I am. I don't want you following some person out there who's acting like an imposter. They'll have the same pictures and everything, but you got to look very close. This is me, blue check mark TR3 NDY space JON. And then it's at TR3 NDY JON, no space. All right. So right here, you see my followers, how many people I'm following. That's the real me. If you want to ask me a question, what I'll do is end up putting this link from this live stream in here, and you guys can ask questions under there if you have any. Okay, let's go ahead and minimize this. So far as the SPY is concerned, I'm going to tell you from a trendy perspective, all these indicators and stuff, they're mine. These are, what I use. And what I see right off the bat, we came into a trendy edge. This is when we went to Orlando, the summit. We went to the money show. I got to speak to a lot of you. Prices came down into this level. And I have to tell you, right here, everyone was bearish. Matter of fact, a lot of the talk at the money show was all about being bearish and how you should short and this and that. And, if you bought into that idea, you could have got slammed. And this is why I think that it's super important to understand where demand is on your charts. I have indicators that find those demand levels, a playing field of those demand levels, and then that's where we want to actually be going long. You can see here that this is 3 weeks up. We talked about this on Monday's session. I said we could be looking at three white soldiers. That is a structure of candles. And it's always the same thing. When I see prices moving up like this, you hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, there's not enough volume behind it. It's not this, it's not that." And I'm like, listen, just leave that crap to the side, man. Buy at a demand level, ride the price, ride the wave, forget about all the noise, and as long as we're making higher highs and higher lows, let's try to ride this puppy as far as we can. All right? Now, Where can we go and could we stall here? Is there anything significant? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this pivot and I'm going to come down on some Fibonacci's. You'll notice that we're at the 76.4. Right off the bat, I think we could gap up into 450 to 452.47. Currently right now on the futures, we are gapped up at 449.47, 449.50 on your SPY. And this is just from a Fibonacci standpoint. If you're in my room, then you'll understand this, or if you don't, you can ask about it. But once we pass the 618, typically you have an 85% probability that we can hit the 88.7. Now, that is a variable of time. So, meaning we could still pull back here, come in here for 2 days, and then end up hitting this on Thursday or Friday. But a lot of people will forget what I tell them here, but I'm just looking for this as long as this holds. So 439 needs to hold. I'm looking for 450 to 452. Your closer support on SPY right now is 446 and a half. We're just going to use that Fibonacci right there. Now, if I take that away, you'll also notice that I have some other trendy edges. We call these the future edges. They're the ones that are actually moving with price and lining up for future supply and demand. And so what we can do is we can use these levels as near-term support. So right now it's at 446 and a half. Okay. That's what we got right there. Now, again, to the upside, what you want to be paying attention to is structure. So inside and down formations, I have a video on my YouTube feed that will teach you how to identify those. So we have that structure here. Now, if I were to draw that structure and put a zone around it, this is your supply zone. Now, notice that we are in the supply zone. And as long as we stay in the supply zone, then you want to stay long. It's not until price actually starts to break down below here that I start to feel like, hey, now we're going to buy the dip. Where would we buy the dip? Again, I'll be finding those zones and sharing those with you every single morning. That would be closer down there to those support levels I gave you. If 446 and a half breaks down, then what I want to do is I want to come up here, all right, and I want to find a level like the 23.6 and the 38.2 to get long at. And you can see that we have this right here. We have the cloud that is confluent with the 38.2. And that is a very bullish confluence. So around 435.62 would kind of be that level where everybody else would be like, I told you we were having that big pullback. And I would be like, I would be welcoming that pullback. All right. And I would be wanting to buy in this level. All right. So any pullback in that level, I'm definitely a fan of. Near term support, like I said, 446 and a half. Far as structure goes, far as resistance, you just use these topping wicks. Just put some lines on these topping wicks. This is down pressure, 451 to 453. We could find, some sort of hiccup in that area. And again, everybody's looking for the short. And like I told my friend, I said, listen, if everybody's looking for it, there's a good chance they don't make it easy. And what I mean by not make it easy, we could come up here, we could stall. Breath starts getting a little weird. Ticks are doing whatever, people look when they're looking at ticks. And, you just don't get the sell off that you want. You get a small little baby sell off. It digests. These cloud levels up here start to creep up a little bit. See, the more we go sideways, the more these start to creep up and kind of do something like this. And the closer that they get, the more support that we are building underneath. All right. So we're just kind of building for that next possible leg to the upside. Now, again, supply zone is here. We are testing that supply zone, but we are in it. And as long as we are in it, then stay in it. Okay. So here it is, just like that. It's not until we break down below that. But if we break down below, we got support right underneath it. That's your SPY. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the QQQ. All right. So the Qs. This is a lot different story, right? If we back this thing up and we take a look at the overall structure, you can see, we have highs here. All right. We came up and hit the trendy edge perfectly last time. And I remember this. We were on the right side here as well. We pushed it to the upside. We looked out right here. We wanted to, make sure that we're being good stewards of our money. But here we are coming right back to test the trendy edge once again. The blue trendy edge is a higher time frame supply zone, and you can see it makes a dent in things. Okay. Matter of fact, this was a hard time for me because I also drank a little bit too much Kool-Aid. I was having a good time and I just was like, hey man, my time's not over. And I kept buying, okay, I kept buying swing trades, looking to see that this level right here would hold like about right here, but it just kept dipping, and I kept buying. And some of those didn't work out. All right. But now we're right back where we need to be. And it really, at this point, what it comes down to is if this, then that. When you find yourself at a level where it's like, okay, man, I know I'm hitting supply. I know what's supposed to happen, but don't put it into existence until it happens. All right? It's just something that we are aware of that hey, you hit this level before, it doesn't mean that it has to back off again. And that's the thing is everybody's looking for that. When I'm looking for structure up and to the left, I see this over here. And really, this is your all-time high. This is insane. Just not too long ago, people were freaking out saying that we were going to crash. And here we are, just a little bit off of the highs for 2023. Sorry, 2022. All right. So this is a really big deal. And we are at a resistance point around 385 and 3/4. You can see that this level is the over under, if you will, going into tomorrow. And right now we are at 386.07 by 386.09, meaning the futures have gapped up once again. Again, structure, what I would do is I would take this little pivot and just get really close to it right there by the wick. And I would bring this up because we already know that level. And I would put it right there. And that's around, let me make sure I have this right. It's pretty close to 388, about right there. All right. So, and again, we're not quite there. We're at 386. So a move up into this area, I would expect a little bit of top and, a double top action here. Probably pull back, and your near term support is going to be this level at 382. All right, 382 and a quarter. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then your longer term support is down here at 373.93 on the QQQ. All right. Far as targets to the upside, again, 387, let's just call it 388. And then we're going to come over here where my crosshairs are, and we're going to go just underneath that structure. And I teach you how to do all this over here at Simpler Trading. So please, please join me if you're like, hey, this is kind of cool, and I want to learn how to do this. My whole entire mission, the reason why I'm here is to teach you how to fish. I don't keep anything from you. People stay around because we're all like-minded and we're pretty much doing a good job here. So, not pretty much, we are doing a good job here. All right. When I say pretty much, people are always going to have a hard time trading. It's not an easy endeavor. Like you have to work at it. It takes a long time. Okay. So your QQQs, this is what we're looking at. Once again, I told you support. You can go back. And while I'm talking, if you're liking this information, if you would please hit the like. All right. And don't forget to follow me out there on X. And once I post this, please give it a like and retweet it, but also like the YouTube video as well. It just lets me know that I'm reaching people and that they appreciate what I'm doing for them during my time before Taco Tuesday. So that's SPY QQQ. Let's look at what I show you every single morning. Let's go to the ES futures on the weekly. Notice this was resistance until proven otherwise here. This is what we started off with this week. Now what we're going to do is we are going to change the verbiage here and say this is support, okay, until proven otherwise. Okay, now it becomes support. That's 4,445. I told you to remember this number yesterday. That is a very important number. Yesterday it was resistance. Today and tomorrow it's going to be support. You can see that we are in a supply zone. And as I taught you this morning, I said as long as we go bid above 44.90, stay long. That is your over-under for the futures, 44.90. It is possible we can move into 45.41 and also 45.64. Near-term support, 44.90, and then long-term support, meaning for this week, 4445, and down here at 4396. That's the ES futures. Let's go ahead and go into the Nasdaq. Before I do that, let me show you today's action. So this was the 5-minute. I gave you targets. I had to redo my charts really quickly because that move was so powerful today. It pushed down into our zone here. It pushed down into the trendy edge, and of course, you're going to get a buy signal. And a lot of people are going to have a hard time here, right? They're going to be like, how the hell do I take this trade? Remember, one of the quickest and easiest ways to do this is just measure your opening candle, find the 23.6, and try to go long at that 23.6. It works a lot. You can see we got some buy signals off of the cloud. If you stayed long above the cloud, we did reach our targets. We even pushed into this target that I gave you later on in the session at 45.22. We ended up overall just kind of hanging out at the target that I gave you. Let's go ahead and look at the Nasdaq really fast. All right, so the Nasdaq, same thing, huge candle right off the trendy edges. You can see that, same thing, stayed above the 23.6. We got buy signals. We hit the target, and I believe we ended up closing at target, and I did send this out on X as well. So again, I would expect after 2 days on both of these, the ES futures and the Nasdaq futures, after such a run, when we have a big run like this, we typically will digest. The question is, if you were to take Fibonacci's from this lower level here to your high, whatever the overnight high is going to be, once we open up tomorrow, find that 23.6 and 38.2, and that's going to be your bigger support levels for that intraday trading. Okay, really straightforward. All right, so on the bigger time frame though, here is your Nasdaq. Notice that it pushed right through supply. That's what I mean. See, last week we got into supply, and as long as 15,320 held, you got to stay long until we break down below. So again, Nasdaq futures, depending on where we end up tomorrow, if we're above this 15,870, that is your closest support. And far as like support down below, I would have to say 15,320. And I get it, it's pretty far away. All right, so this is from a weekly perspective. Then I'll take you, because we're so far into that, let's go ahead and take you into the daily. Notice how we're creating these pivots here. All right, we have those inside and up formations. Again, go watch that video. Notice how it says short trigger here, as I taught you yesterday. Just because it says short trigger doesn't mean we go short. We're looking for the trendy turns on the smaller time frames. If we're not getting the trendy turns, just leave it alone. All right, just ride the trend. If for some reason on your dailies you come back into the inside and ups or the cloud, look to go long. That is the Nasdaq, the ES futures, the SPY, and the QQQ. Now let's go ahead and take a look at TradingView. I said today, if the dollar, and I sent this out on Twitter, if the dollar were to cross below the cloud, hold my beer. Okay, what I mean by that, if you come down here, you'll see DXY, the dollar. If we break below this cloud, stock market goes hold my beer. Alert set. It's full on FOMO a la mode, baby. Give it a rest here while the market digests. No rush. We came in this morning with swing trades on. You can see that. Those swing trades did really well. We trimmed out of those positions. We also made 200+% on our HD call debit spreads into earnings. And so things worked out really well. All right. But where are we now? And the question is the dollar coming into any sort of demand? And this is really important for our journey into the next couple days. Remember, we could continue to move further up and put max pain on bears. But the question is there support in here? I don't want to be biased. I just want to look for structure. This is a pretty strong bullish candle. And you can see the move from here. It's kind of slow. All right. I wouldn't say it's bad. It definitely looks bullish. Let's go ahead and use some Fibonacci's from here. We're going to go from our pivot low into our pivot high. And you can see we're underneath the 38.2. Therefore, the dollar is no longer extremely bullish because it's not holding the 38.2. But this is a weekly candle. And because this is a weekly candle and it's only Tuesday, I can't tell you if the weekly candle will end up being bullish or if it ends up being bearish, which means it would have to drop below that 618. The question is there any structure in here, right where this level is right here, that could cause the dollar to bounce? I don't see it on the weekly, so I'm going to go to a daily. Let's look down and to the left. You can see we have an inside and up formation. We stalled at the inside and up formation, and yes, we could find a bounce from here, 104 into 103.473. If we start to break down below this 50, then things continue to move up in the overall market. Let's go ahead and take a look at the TNX. This is your Treasury. Same thing. We stalled, we broke down. This is what we talked about. All is coming into play. This is pretty ugly. It's an inside and down, but when I say ugly, it's absolutely beautiful. I've been waiting for this to happen. You just had to be patient. Right around the time that the masses were absolutely scared and fearful, and that brings me to my next thing, fear and greed. Where are we today? Now we are in the neutral. This has got to make you ponder and think, well, what happens from here? I mean, seriously, could you put a hurting on the market if you went here to extreme greed? You still have, folks, you are basically stuck between here. The pendulum swings both ways, and we haven't even pushed this thing to the right hand side. We're just basically coming up to equilibrium, if you will, from such a downfall, right? And so the question is, and I'm sure on your mind, what will tomorrow bring? I'll leave you with this. Don't overthink things. Follow price. That's why we have an intraday strategy that I truly believe in. That intraday strategy will start the same way it does every single day. All right. We're going to have a target to the downside and a target to the upside. This is where imbalance lies. It doesn't mean we have to come down there. Matter of fact, on all your charts across the board, you have what we call a big imbalance candle. And at some point, most likely, it doesn't have to happen today or tomorrow, but we will most likely come back to this imbalance to fill more orders. The timing is the variable. Don't be Mr. or Mrs. Egotistical. Who cares if you time the market perfectly? I don't care. All I care is at the end of the day if you're doing well or not. Please, please remember, don't try to be a top or a bottom caller. Just follow the process. I'll put some lines on the chart. I teach you how to find those lines. I'll find the zones for you. And then we wait for price and then we execute with risk in mind. That's all I have for tonight. Again, if you enjoy the video, please give us a like and I hope to see you in the future. Have a great day.